Did you know that there is much more behind the Lorax movie than you imagined? Despite being a movie based on a children's book, the Lorax carries impactful messages for people of all ages. While there is a strong environmental preservation message in the film, there are also other mature themes present. For instance, the manipulation of selling air, a resource that is everywhere but becomes significantly more expensive when bottled, making O'Hare wealthy. This can be seen as a critique of the same model used to sell bottled water, another resource that should be accessible to everyone, just like air, but is sold at a much higher price when put in a plastic or glass bottle.
Our research shows that if you put something in a plastic bottle, people will buy it.
And that's just one of the 12 things that only adults notice in the movie about the furry orange creature who protects the truffula trees. And of course, we discovered all of them just to tell you. The illusion of false reality. In Needville, a city almost entirely made of plastic, there are plenty of cheap imitations of real things. Take, for example, the bushes that we see a man bursting after blowing them up. It's obvious that they are completely fake and artificial, just like the trees whose lights can change color according to the season, as we see Ted's mother doing. All those things are nothing but cheap imitations of real things that are a part of nature. And one of the things we see a lot nowadays of are synthetic materials, which are imitations of real items found in nature, made in laboratories or factories, just like all the fake vegetation in Needville. In other words, they are false imitations of reality. Packaging matters more than content. Onceler, driven by his greed and obsession, managed to build a profitable and massive empire. But when the last truffula tree was cut down, there was nothing left for him except to serve as inspiration for O'Hare to become the next greedy millionaire. And what does O'Hare sell? Nothing but air! If you think about it, the jugs and bottles sold by the villain's company don't sell anything other than the idea that people are buying quality oxygen, because there seems to be no difference between the air breathed by the people of Needville and the air inside the villain's products. Of course, there is good design in the products and the uniforms of the delivery men, resembling those old milkmen. So in the case of O'Hare's company, they sell nothing but a mere illusion, showing that a beautiful package accompanied by a lie is sometimes more than enough to sell things that serve no purpose.
You gotta be kidding me! You really think people are stupid enough to buy this?
False charity. In the same musical clip where Onceler sings, accompanied by his relatives, we can see several references that adults are very familiar with. One of them addresses the fact that rich people seemingly donate money to charity, but behind it, the donation is nothing but a kind of deception. For example, in the clip, the one receiving the donation is Onceler's uncle disguised with a fake beard.
How bad can I be? A portion of proceeds goes to charity.
This shows a principle that adults are well aware of. Not every donation is heartfelt or goes to the right place. Unfortunately, references to rock and roll. The Lorax movie is memorable for many reasons, and one of them is definitely its music. And we have to admit, some of the best songs are sung by one of the villains, Onceler. That's why we can notice that the character's portrayal at a certain moment is heavily influenced by references to old school rock. For example, the glasses worn by Onceler resemble those worn by rockers like Bono Vox from U2, a band that achieved great success in the 90s and early 2000s. And the guitar he plays in his song, How Bad Can I Be, strongly resembles the Flying V guitar, which was very popular in the 60s and became a symbol of rock metal. Famous musicians like Jimi Hendrix used this instrument model. So, it's definitely a reference that only the older generation would likely have noticed. These subtle nods to rock and roll add another layer of depth and nostalgia to the film, appealing to both younger viewers and those who have a fondness for classic rock music. It's a delightful touch that enriches the overall experience of watching the Lorax. Now I'm curious, which song from the Lorax movie did you like the most? Was it How Bad Can I Be? Or was it another one? Tell us! Animal skins. In recent years, it's become very rare to see wealthy people and celebrities wearing animal skins around their necks. But it wasn't always like that. One way to display wealth in the past was for women to wear an original animal fur around their necks as part of their look. Besides being considered a luxury and refined item, it was cruel evidence that animals were killed and had their pelts taken solely to meet the bizarre demand of the very wealthy. We can see that Onceler's mother has an unidentified animal fur around her neck, and even though she is not rich, just by this aspect, adults perceive that she is the kind of person who wants to appear wealthy. So, If you're older, you certainly noticed this reference that the animal fur on Onceler's mother's neck represented, and you know that this perverse practice is becoming increasingly rare. Thankfully, the bubble of Needville. Another thing that is more apparent to adults is the fact that the city of Needville, which appears to be so happy and prosperous, with everyone singing and dancing all the time, is nothing more than a kind of prison. O'Hare created various different amusements in the city, such as space for surfing and snowboarding. He gives the inhabitants everything they believe they need, without ever considering that another way of life could also be good. This causes them to live in a bubble, where everything they need can be provided whenever they want, as long as they don't try to leave, just like Ted did and was pursued for it. Certainly, this is a form of social control that adults have certainly noticed.
My name's O'Hare, I'm one of you. I live here in Needville too.
Needs were never necessary. In fact, this is closely related to the previous topic and the concept of Onceler's product. When he chops down a truffle tree and makes his first need, he tries to sell it to the people in town, but no one wants to buy it because they don't see any utility in it. But as quickly as they discard the need, they sort of fall in love with the product, and it starts becoming useful for everything, gaining great importance. But when the last truffle tree is cut down and everyone abandons him, the need simply stops being produced. Just as quickly as it became a success, it was forgotten, demonstrating that the product was never actually important or indispensable to the town's population. The only thing that remained of the product was the name of the town, which clearly highlights the correlation between the two. The superficiality. Here's an interesting fact. The word need is a combination that Dr. Seuss made of two words. They need. But the truth is, they really didn't need it. Cereal box. There's a scene where Ted is dreaming of kissing Audrey and ends up kissing a cereal box instead. And we can see that the side of the box has a lot of heavy information, which we covered in our video, 25 amazing details you missed in the Lorax. So, if you haven't watched it yet, click here to check it out. The fact is, these pieces of information on these types of food are better understood by adults. Let's highlight just the worst one. The cereal claims to be enriched with coal tar oil. Every adult knows that tar is one of the substances present in cigarettes and is derived from coal. And worse, it's directly linked to the occurrence of lung cancer. But in Needville, it's in children's cereal. Tell us, would you dare to eat cereal with 13 addictive platifenes and 50 radamins, even without knowing what those things are? Probably not, right? But that's exactly what we do every day by consuming processed foods. Radioactivity. Unless you're a history buff, this was certainly one of the things that caught the attention of adults in the movie. In addition to Needville being completely synthetic, meaning nothing in it is natural, its water is also radioactive. And the worst part is, a child who bathes in this water becomes fluorescent, and everyone seems to be fine with it. Some of the greatest disasters in history have occurred due to problems in radioactive nuclear power plants. There was the case in 2011 with the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster caused by a tsunami in Japan, a year before the movie was released. However, it doesn't even come close to the Chernobyl disaster that occurred in 1986, when a nuclear reactor in Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union, simply collapsed. The accident was so severe that there was a real risk of all of Europe being contaminated by nuclear radiation and becoming an environment full of destruction and death. In fact, the number of deaths from the accident is still unknown to this day because, in reality, despite being contained, its effects are still felt today. To give you an idea, in 2011, a year before the release of the Lorax, 15 children in the region where the disaster happened died from thyroid cancer, which is still directly related to the disaster that occurred almost 40 years ago. Breathe responsibly. When O'Hare is in a meeting deciding to sell air bottles, we see a commercial where the air bottles are treated the same way alcoholic beverage commercials usually do, with young people and lots of fun. And this becomes even more evident at the end when the phrase "breathe responsibly" is mentioned, which is a version of "drink responsibly."
O'Hare Purified Air. Freshness to go. Please breathe responsibly.
As absurd as it may seem, it is indeed a reference to an adult consumer product. as you need to be at least 18 years old to drink. But it also highlights something else, how commercials can manipulate people into buying anything when they show young and happy people in them. The wisdom of age and experience. Another interesting thing is that there is something about Onceler's lifestyle as an older person that adults also noticed. You can see that now he lives alone, he has a much more environmentally responsible lifestyle. For example, you can see that he doesn't use electricity since all his inventions to shoo people away are manual. Even the backlight in his house doesn't seem to be electric, but rather from candles or a lantern, judging by the strong yellow hue and the shadows in the background. In other words, Onceler became environmentally conscious only in his old age, which is a pity and at the same time a lesson for all of us. After all, taking good care of nature is something we don't have to grow old to start doing, just like Onceler did. These were the 12 things that only adults noticed in the Lorax. Tell us in the comments your age and which of these things you also noticed. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Until next time, bye-bye!